Okay. Welcome to Foundations by Modaa. I'm Rosie Abramyan.
And I'm Patrick Ahounber.
And we are the co-founders of Modaa and the Foundations podcast. Today, we have a very special guest, Velinda Hellen with Velinda Hellen Design, who has been a collaborator with Modaa for years. And we are so excited to have Velinda on.
Hi guys. Thanks for having me. This is really cool. Very exciting.
Welcome, Velinda. We are very happy to have you. And for our audience, would love to learn more about you as a quick intro.
Awesome. Yeah. I am Velinda Hellen, and I'm the owner and a designer with Velinda Hellen Design. We've been Velinda Hellen Design for about 6 years now. And prior to that, the same team, my core design team, was already collaborating with another designer. So we've been a team now for going on close to about 10 years. Yeah, and I've had the honor of helping you guys kind of come up with a dream for your own home. And I have enjoyed collaborating so far, and now we get to collaborate on a podcast.
And with the bias, of course, my own home working with you has been my favorite project because it's kept me on pins and needles of what's next. And all of it has been so exciting. I am super grateful that you took us on. So thank you for that.
Yeah, it's a great vision too. I'm so excited. I'm having the same experience I do when it's like, once we kind of know where the design's going, I'm like, okay, it's installed yet. So that's going to be your job to make it happen really fast, because I'm going to be very impatient. I want to see it.
Oh, the roles reverse at some point, right? Through the process.
That is if I don't get fired. That is if I don't get fired from the owner here.
It's an interesting dynamic to actually be the client for once, right? Because we work as a team, as a partnership here, and then I'm the client. I'm Pat's client as well as I'm your client. So I'm looking forward to the outcome, and I appreciate the urgency in bringing it to life. So thank you for that.
Yeah, it's very fun.
I mean, we know this, but I'd love the story, and I'd love for audience to hear it. How did you get into interior design?
Honestly, by accident. I started out, I had an early interest in interior design. It was when I was a teenager. It was when Trading Spaces was on, and it was my homework show, and I just watched it every day. And I thought, that looks like fun. I think I might be interested in that. My well-intentioned, well-meaning father let me know that I could never make a living doing something like that, and so I should definitely go a different path. And I decided to go the path of filmmaking and acting, which I don't know why that would be more promising, but that was the path I decided to take. And so I ended up moving from Oklahoma to California, pursuing some storytelling. I dabbled in acting, producing, and writing, and so was kind of going that direction. But then interior design just kind of kept creeping in, because as I would, my very first places that were really mine, I just loved designing them. I didn't have any money, so everything was secondhand, everything was borrowed or found. But I just loved building those layers. And then my friends started saying, "Will you help me?" Other people started saying, "Will you help my friend?" I like the hunt and the layering of designs more than I like character studies, even though I actually have found that the character study really feeds the design world. It keeps it very exciting, which I'll talk about. But yeah, so I had picked up a business degree along the way, and when I decided to shift gears officially was when I bought a very small bungalow out here, and had no funds really to do any kind of renovation. But I had my partner at the time. I had my mom, my sisters, and my mom's wife, and one crazy contractor who decided he would trust us with his tools and actually would be like, "Okay, here's how you use a sander. Here's how you use these tools." And he had nobody else except for installing a couple windows. He had no other help. It was just my family and him. It was a really cool process and a very hands-on process of learning. But I found myself getting frustrated when I didn't know how to get what was in my head across to the contractor, or to figure out exactly the scale when I was drawing. I was like, it's going to look something like this. I was like, so I have to go back. I have to go back to school. I want to learn how to communicate what I'm seeing in my head. And so I went to the UCLA extension program. They have like a 2-year program for anyone who has a degree but wants to shift fields, and it was fantastic. They have great teachers. They teach you how to do the drawing the old school way by hand. Then they teach you all of the technology, and it was so freeing to finally be able to like pull a vision together and communicate that.
That's awesome. So this all makes sense now because when you and I work together, when there's certain details we go over, it's most of the time it's pretty hard for designers to visually see all this. But with you, I just feel like it's simple. Like if I explain something over the phone or go over a detail, you can already visualize all that and see everything, which makes it very easy on our end and the project itself.
And so from my perspective, where I'm seeing the groundwork of you actually working side by a GC as your startup, when you showed up to our place and I said, I need a wider hallway. I need at least, 50, 60. And Pat's response was, as a GC and as my husband, obviously taking into consideration budget, is like, well, we have 42. We've got more than enough. And while he's saying this, your co-designer, Grace, is pulling out a measuring tape and starting to measure because she already knows Belinda's not letting this one go. You requested 50, 60. That's what we're doing. It really comes into our world of your understanding of what can and cannot be done because you are here to push boundaries, right? Design, like you said, is there's no sky's the limit with design. And so then when you're dreaming and designing and you are reaching obstacles, I think for someone like you to have sounds like picked up the hammer very early on and done some of this yourself, you have an appreciation of, okay, you know what, we have to pivot. Maybe we do want that design, but what if we explore this idea instead? Thank you for sharing that. I love that. It sounds like the contractor, was he established or was he also starting off as well at that time?
He was semi-retired, and I'm so grateful for him. I'm like, a man to trust, because my sisters were like 13 at the time, and they had heat guns. They were melting flooring. I was like, man, you really don't think we're going to sue you? And we would never. But I was like, that was a big risk he took, and I'm so grateful that he did because we could not afford a team.
I'd also like to honor the fact that you still kept your authenticity and interest in design, even though as a father who's protecting his daughter, he's trying to talk you out of a career that he didn't think was as fruitful as this turned out to be. And I think you had to go and explore the film industry to appreciate that and bring it into what was your childhood dream.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something. I kind of look back. I thought I was pivoting or shifting gears, but I look back, I'm like, no, it built on that foundation. What's so cool now is like when a client comes in, they are, so unique, and they are their own character. And rather than just being like, okay, here's the design we do, we get to discover what they bring, who they are, how they're using their space, who their family is, what they already have. So, one of our projects was heavily inspired by these really awesome, like, ceramic figurines that look traditional, that had like wacky, like, heads. They're like little traditional birds with like a wacky human head. And we're like, this is so great. We're going to be inspired by this piece of art. I think that the character study and the, like, breaking down a script or breaking down wardrobe and all of these things that you think about, now we just naturally approach a project with that in mind of who is this person and how do we bring their character into their home. They should feel like they are living in their home. It should feel like an extension of them, and just, an extension that they couldn't have achieved without our collaboration. But if any of their friends walked in, they'd be convinced they did because it's so specifically them.
So I'm going to segue and I'm going to ask you a question that I'm really seeing as an entrepreneur. When you talk to a lot of designers, you pick up on the art and the experience and space planning and understanding architecture. When I met you and actually got to know you and talk about your interest in your business, it's a mastermind, what you've created and how you made it palatable for me, someone who never believed that I could even think of hiring an interior designer, yet alone Velinda Hellen Design, truthfully, and I'm not paid to say this. I sense that you've got this entrepreneurship and this business plan And I'd love to know how that transpired. What was your inspiration of bringing this together to create Velinda Hellen Design?
That was really, really exciting to hear. So thank you for that, first of all. When I so quick, how I went from school to where I am right now having my own company. I took a swing. I used to watch, again, more interior design television, and I watched Design Star, and my favorite designer was Emily Henderson. And straight out of school, took a swing, applied for a job, and ended up working with her. And it's where I met my team. I met my team through Emily Henderson Design. She hired Grace, Julie, and I all pretty much straight out of school. We actually all shared one desk in a little corner where we were, training under her. She did a beautiful job of kind of teaching us and raising us. But she had these great projects in Los Angeles. One was in Lake Arrowhead, one was in Portland. And then she decided she wanted to move to Portland because who wouldn't want to move to Portland? And so she was like, I don't need the LA interior design team anymore. And so I was like, well, all right, I'm a few years in now, so I guess I could either go get another job or see if I can get clients of my own. And I came very close. I found a designer that I was very tempted to take the job. And I was like, but I feel like if I don't just take a swing, then, you know, then who would ever know if that would have worked out? So I was like, now's the time. I can always go get a job with a designer. I could always take a step back. So, when we were working with Emily, we were working on projects that were remote, and so accidentally, my earliest training was all virtual process. We were able to go to site. We would fly to Portland or go up to Lake Arrowhead and check in, but so much of the work was remote. And so when I went off on my own, I was like, I could work with people outside of LA. And if I don't start that early, I may never start that branch. I went solo in 2020, and at the time, I did not know Grace and Julie would be joining me. Um, Hence the name Velinda Allen Design. I would have come up with something a little more collaborative. But I went solo, started the virtual process first, and just happened to be ready by March of 2020, which obviously we know what happened. Everyone was stuck at home for a couple of years. Everybody wanted to improve their homes. And so we got to, work with people all over actually the world, and these spaces that they were stuck in, helping them make it better.
Thank you so much for sharing the starting a business in COVID, and who knew that there was really silver lining that could come out of COVID, right? It just was such a horrible time. I know this, and I'd love for you to share this because it was very inspirational. You said you had, I think, 300
Yeah,
contracts.
I think the first, well, now we have done over, I think, 375 spaces. And I'm pretty sure the first 200 of those were in our first year.
That's incredible. And to get your foot in the door during COVID and to have that kind of success story where, sadly, some of the stories are the other way around. But to have done those many spaces and your business initiated during COVID, kudos and super inspirational for us.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it was nice to be busy and to be meeting people like that, like to have met that many people and to get to create with that many people. It was like you said, a
Okay.
silver lining of a really dark time.
So, what were some of the hardships of starting your own business? Venturing off on your own.
Yeah. I think the first one was inferiority complex. Just transitioning a little bit later, I was on one path, and then I decided to go on another path. And whenever I remember specifically actually being at a gathering, and somebody said, "Oh, she's an interior designer," and I was like, "No, no, 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 no. I'm in school. I'm a student. I'm a student." And kind of that thing of like, "No, no,
Mm.
no, no, no. Don't take me seriously." I think at varying points going, okay, well, if I'm going to be starting a company, I'm not a student anymore, right? We're going to be a designer. So really transitioning mentally and developing the confidence to even just say that I was a designer was oddly difficult. But as far as the company itself, that I think it continues to be the right flow. So having enough to keep my Grace and Julie and the other designers that now work with us busy enough without killing them. And we have fallen on both ends of that while we've tried to find the right balance of projects. So we're in a good flow right now. And along the way, I've learned to not desperately say yes to every project because of fear they'll go away. But instead say, we're at our max right now. If you don't mind being flexible, we will work with you. We would love to work with you in like 3 months. And so having the ability to now line up projects lets us stay content in like our boutique size. We're not trying to grow. And it lets us kind of know how to tell other clients what to expect. And to my great surprise, everyone's been like, great, well, we want to work with you, so we'll wait. And so that's been really, really lovely and helped that kind of desperate feeling of say yes to the project go away.
Congratulations on that. I can
Yeah,
totally
sure.
relate. I can totally relate to the I'm not good enough. No, no, no. Look the other way. Don't give me any compliments. And honestly, Belinda, the fact that you've stepped into your light and you've reached your childhood dreams, it sounds like you've also healed the childhood fears and, like you said, the inferiority complex that some of us just have. So congratulations on that. And I think Pat was also saying something.
Well, it's us doing the same thing as well, like starting our business out of nowhere. And there's always that, that whole fear, right? Like, are you gonna fail? Are you gonna make it? Are you not? But if I didn't know you, I would think you've been in the business longer than 6 years. I mean, I
Oh,
would say at
good.
least well over 20 years, just because of how seasoned you are, I guess. Um, but yeah, but unless you don't take a risk or chance in life, you won't know what you're capable of doing. So I think, you were meant to be an entrepreneur. You were meant to do your own thing, and your crew. It's the entire crew. I think of the designers are all amazing too. So it's forming the right team, which I think you have, and keeping it small. I think is huge because the quality of it still remains. You stay on top of things. You finish projects on the on the due date timeline. So I think it's important to just kind of keep that little nest you have, and I think all of them are great, to be honest, just from my experience.
I agree. Grace and Julie, I mean, the entire team is always so communicative. But Grace and Julie, like we've collaborated so long that we can just pass off any point of the process, anything that needs to be done could be handed over, and we know kind of when to lean on each other, when to say I can take more, and it just feels like there's just such a flow with them.
I've lived and had the chance to experience watching you two do this in the past and do it again. Working on celebrity homes, how does it differ from working with an everyday client?
You know, my first response when I think about that is there's so much crossover. There really is a lot of crossover. People are usually designing for some level similar functions, usually designing for somewhat for somebody or something else like a pet or, their children. There's like other people that's such a player within every design and functionality can be, pretty shared. So there's a whole lot of through line. I think that when we're working with a celebrity client, they can sometimes have the freedom to be an easier yes. Sometimes when we're working with uh, clients who do have to be just a bit more particular about budget or really pick where they're going to save or splurge, sometimes it's like it's just a bit more precious. So sometimes I say sometimes a lot. Um, the the back and forth with a client who does have to sometimes be more precious um, can just be a little bit more delicate. Whereas some of our celebrity clients, we show them something cool, they're like, "Yeah, we'll take all that, thank you." And I think that's a big difference. And then the other piece is the kinds of characters we're getting to work with because our celebrity clients happen to all kind of be more film industry, very creative so far. Um, and they're really playful, and they know they're playful, and we get notes like more monkeys in the wallpaper and stuff like that. So it's like, yeah, let's just play. Some of our other clients are coming from, medical worlds, or lawyers, or, just parents, who don't quite consider themselves creative. And so we get to bring out the play in them. Instead of just having an already creative, we get to show them how they have creativity inside them and how we can bring that out. And so I think that's kind of another difference of just kind of getting to work with different character types in those two extremes.
That's so cool. How do you describe your style in the interior design world?
Okay. So, um, okay. Here's the truth. We love so many different styles, and that's why we love working with like different people all over, because we get to play in the different styles. But if I were to say like what people are coming to VHD more and more specifically for, it's definitely a hybrid of my, Grace, and Julie's layers. So, um both of them would use the words old man as a part of their style, or like England, Europe. They would both bring in some element of that. So, for instance, we love tea shop vibes or cigar lounge vibes and that kind of stuff. We like a layer of like grit. I used to, when we were starting the virtual process, again, straight from the film world, I actually would do a log line. So, as a part of the presentation of what we think this home is going to be. And it would be a specific like log line of where we were aiming for, kind of a character we created. So I actually created my own log line for what I consider my style. And you're going to be like, that's wacky. But my log line is minimalist rock star living in Europe, haunted by a 1920s New Orleans ghost. So that's what I consider my style. And I just love the old world influence, and I love the layers of it. And I'm like, it's got to have a little edge, but it's definitely got to have a lot of soul.
Well, that makes me want to do both of our children's rooms with you now, because Zoe Zoe would really appreciate that.
Love
Although,
it.
the whole ghost element, the experience, the taking you back to the era,
The cigar lounge.
it's
Yeah.
like
Oh,
motion
yeah.
pictures, but you're living in it.
I actually thought about that the other day. This may have been said by 1,000 other people, but I actually woke up in the middle of the night and I was like, interior design is just art that you get to live inside. How cool is that?
Yeah.
It's like, it's
Yeah.
really cool. It's very exciting.
And on the note of bringing out creativity from folks that might not consider themselves to be as creative, I see so many creative spaces. I work on so many creative spaces with creative people, but come and ask me to design a room. I don't know where to start. I don't know where to end. And so I appreciate that you shed some light on that, because there's a lot of people out there like me that have creative ideas, but don't feel like they're creative enough to bring these ideas to life.
And for me, I didn't realize how complicated it would be to like design our own, house. I mean, I've built homes. I know, I've built cabin homes and this and that I've seen the vision to make it vintage and whatnot. But to actually like a dream home for us, I just like, layouts and, framing related stuff, floor plans were simple, but just like how to design each room, furniture wise, wallpaper wise, lighting, it was way over my league. And I was just like, it's a lot harder than you think.
I think this is a good time to segue into, what advice do you have for aspiring designers?
Um, that I would say is learn to draw. Learn the CADs. I think that was one of the most distinguishing differences between just having a good eye. Just having good eye versus knowing how to check if things work and then communicate it. I will say it was the most freeing part of my shift into design was when I could just technically communicate and make sure things fit and like do everything to scale. And it was also the reason I got my first job with Emily. And the ability to draw is like the number one thing we look for when we are hiring.
Velinda, is there anything you still struggle with in your line of work, like in the design industry? I know we've talked about all these good things.
Yes, honestly, what you were just talking about, decision. So we're here to help the decision paralysis, the decision fatigue, and our systems and our deadlines and everything keep us on track. But uh, design can just be it could be amazing in so many different ways. So picking the wallpaper. I make a joke. I was like, someone cut me off. If I start scrolling wallpaper, I will be scrolling wallpaper for 4 hours if you let me. I mean, example, no pillows on my own sofa. Can't pick a pillow. So it's harder in my own space to actually commit to a decision because I don't have a deadline. But I do think knowing when to say, yeah, I like that one. That one's it. Let's make a decision and go. Can sometimes be difficult. And it is a full team balance to say, good enough? Do we like this? Yes, let's go. Let's move on.
So I take it that you love pattern and you love wallpaper.
Do love pattern and wallpaper. Love it. And we've done Scandi, we've done Wabi Sabi, we've done more pulled back spaces. Those can be really beautiful as well. There's just so much opportunity to add a little bit of whimsy when you do layer in a little extra pattern or if you have the pop of wallpaper. We certainly don't do that in every space. Some of them just don't call for it, but we love to play with that element.
So just from my observation of you two having worked on a project that just got featured in House Beautiful, and we're on this podcast and it hasn't even been brought up, what it just tells me, it's a confirmation that you both love the work and you love what you're doing. And it's so much about what you're doing. And you've forgotten about this acknowledgement, this massive acknowledgement, appreciation of what you two brought to life. And thank you, Velinda, for bringing us onto that project and for believing in us enough to say, okay, the client loves these people. There's a reason why she loves these people, and I'm going to let them implement my ideas. Congratulations, you two, on House Beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, cheers. That's pretty cool. I was excited just to be featured, to have like an 8-page spread. I was like, whoa, this is so cool.
Exactly. And for you, for Velinda Hellen Design to be featured in 8 pages on the print, that's massive.
Yeah, really cool.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
I think you kind of touched on this, but if your design style
Mhm.
was a movie, I'm going to guess horror, but obviously bad joke.
Dick Tracy.
Whimsical. Okay, let me not guess for you. What would it be?
If it was a movie, if our design style was a movie, it would be the spirit or the genre of Amelie. So it would be I would say romantic comedy with a little magical realism and a touch of indie drama.
Wow.
I like it. So no ghosts. There were no ghosts there at all.
There were no ghosts. No. Man, I've got to get my log line to line up with my movie.
I love that. And what's interesting is that I'm here for the romantic movie with the magic, and I'm experiencing it from my own space. So that's spot on.
Velinda, what are some of the biggest design myths you see or hear from clients?
I would say the order and the timing of outreach. That we get clients who sometimes will come to us and be like, okay, we've got the GC, we're ready to go, they're ready to start demo. Can you start designing? And I'm like, what are they doing? What are they going to install? So I don't think enough people realize that the design is often where you want to start the process. It can take time to build the design, but also you're going to want time for samples to arrive. You're going to want time to allow for longer lead times. Like we usually say start at least 6 months before you're ready to go demo something. So I think the order of the process, people believe I've got the GC, let's go. Now we're going to design as we go. I really encourage people to reverse that. Then when you have a GC come to site, they also are going to be able to give you more accurate numbers because they're going to understand what they're doing and how labor intensive it is. And I mean, Pat, you could speak to that. I know the bidding process, you've got to know where you're going.
For sure. And it doesn't always mean you need to demo the entire thing, right? You can utilize certain, chair rails or baseboards or crown. So it doesn't necessarily mean you just get in there and just demolish. So it's like a surgical job kind of per room.
Yeah, it's been great. So we have been able to the project we're moving on right now, it's a very tight turnaround. We don't even have full designs, but we know enough about the designs to be able to give a demo list so that it's like we're just going to build off of this millwork. And you did that before on our last project. You did a beautiful job of like taking the millwork that was already there and just building it around the space to kind of tie in um some elements that existed. And so having that full team in place prevents pulling out the things that could work, that could be built upon. So that's yeah, it's great to kind of have both people in play together. And then the other myth I would say um, is budget. I hate this. I hate this even for myself. It's like everything is so expensive. And I just remember watching all these design television shows and being like, we just redid our house for $20,000. And I'm like, that doesn't exist anymore. And I know clients know it's more expensive, but I don't think they realize just how inflated some of this can be. And so, kind of having to go to, okay, yes, we want to touch every surface in the house, but what is the real scope within kind of what can be done for?
Well, as you know, Velinda, I mean, for me, the budget thing is also the same sticker shock. And it seems like post COVID is just going higher and higher and higher. And I relate to you with feeling like, okay, how do I even present this to my client? Or how do I sign up for this? What are some small changes that makes a house feel instantly more finished?
I like that. Um, I would say, not touching renovation because that's not a small change. I would say swapping out a rug and having a great rug that's the right scale. It's a really high impact change. Scale can tend to be one of the things that people have off and they don't realize it. So, making sure that your rug is the right scale, and making sure you really like that piece could be a very instant upgrade. Otherwise, again, I'll point to my own sin here of no layers on my couch. Um, having an update of textiles, swapping out your pillows, maybe updating or swapping out your art as you collect. I think just textile changes can really change the vibe of a room pretty quickly.
What are some common mistakes that are expensive to fix, you would say?
Um, I would say not doing the floors. If you are doing any kind of renovation and you ever think you might do your floors, I would encourage you to try to do that as a part of the renovation you're in. Yes, technically later the floors might cost the same if it doesn't inflate, and I'm sure it will. But it might cost the same to do the process, but you're now having to remove everything in your house. You're now having to store it. You're having to basically remove in and out of your house. So that can be very expensive. And then making any kind of layout mistakes when it comes to plumbing or electrical can be really expensive to fix later. So really making sure that the flow of your space is dead on before you're starting to install things that you might have to swap around.
Yeah, and that makes sense, right? Like you don't want to come do new floors when you have a brand new wallpaper up. Now the client has to spend money on covering things up and making sure things don't get damaged during the process. So that all
Yeah.
makes sense.
And although it seems like this is just the nature of the industry nowadays, are there any budget, cost savings ideas? I know that for us, I appreciate you came to us and you said, "What is your budget?" And so that you're staying within that range. Is there anything outside of that that might be some low-hanging fruit that you'd suggest for our audience?
Yeah, I mean, this is this is a this is how I've had to approach most of my spaces is, sometimes you really just cannot afford the $600 pillow. It's like everything is so crazy. So, you can specifically through our process, we through our virtual process, not our full service, but through our virtual process, we offer kind of a we'll help you create the vision. We will help create the concept. We will even source the example of what you're looking for, but go find this on marketplace. Go find this, go collect this as I've always had to do myself of like, okay, great. I don't typically buy new furniture, not because I don't want to, just because it's like, yeah, I'm trying to maximize the budget. I'm usually doing multiple spaces in my house or revamping it because I can't make up my mind. So I like to thrift. And so we have absolutely supported clients who have a budget in that way.
Thrift shop. I love me some good thrift shopping or flea market, and because then you do find some really beautiful sentimental pieces that you're keeping alive.
I I can spend hours in the vintage shops.
Yeah.
Hours. I'm so stuck on like the 60s, 70s, 80s, and it's like you can make so much out of that. But what's the boldest choice that paid off?
I don't know that it was wildly bold, but it was okay. We had, and hopefully we can pull up an image, but we had a client that we wanted an island, and we were just within, I don't know, by the time we got all the storage they wanted, within 6 inches of being perfectly aligned with their other run of their countertop. We're like, what are we going to do with these 6 inches? We came up with rather than just enlarging another, base cabinet or something, we wanted to make more of a moment of it. We came up with doing basically storage at the end of that island that is open. And we had canisters with, noodles and beans and all the different things that they typically use to cook. And we made it really pretty. And that image went all over Pinterest and ended up bringing a lot of virtual clients who were like, we really want to do something like this as, to inspire our own chef in our own home. So the client reported back, they're like, it genuinely, not only do we love how it looks, we truly use it to get inspired by what we might make for dinner.
It sounds like the truest form of design meets function, but that just transpired out of a challenge that you were just trying to solve while you're on the job.
And that's something that us contractors really appreciate, right? To have, because it's like we always feel like we have to figure out a solution. Like we have to think of what to do. But when you have a designer that's like on top of it, architect, designer, or someone that just can come up with something right away, it makes our life a lot easier too, right? Because it's like now it's like a collaboration. There's a vision there. Like, I can focus on something else. This is something that, that sounds good. We can take care of. And I think it really helps us out too in the field.
Totally. And in reverse, it's so helpful to so quickly be able to say, okay, here's an idea. Can it work? So much of the does this actually work comes down to the contractor because they're going to know mechanically what do we need in this room, or what's behind this wall, why can't we move this, is it load bearing, all of these things. So to be able to say early on in the process, here's the direction we're going, see any red flags, and get your green light is like, oh, it saves everybody time.
But the constraints of dealing with, a 6-inch space issue, and to be able to do it with using what the homeowner or the client has, and it's food, and now becomes inspiration. I think that's beautiful, and I appreciate you sharing that story. It sounds like a really bold moment that turned into a moment of, like you said, Pinterest feature and led to a lot more.
Oh, and one call out in case anybody does run with this idea. Those canisters are all plastic because they had children. Do not use glass canisters that low.
Well, I guess within reach, right? The design hill that you'll die on. What is the design hill that you'll die on?
I love that question. Um, every room, every space should have soul. So, how you get soul into a space is vintage, old, something that's been used, something you've collected, or something that's really specific to your life or inherited. A lot of used is coming up, but or a great piece of art, something that isn't necessarily. And I have no problem with this. We've used restoration hardware art. I don't mean to say this in a negative, but something really cool that's unique to you, a piece you've collected or found or a friend made, is a great way to incorporate soul into a space if you don't want to lean into vintage.
Lots of soul,
Nice.
yes, and moments of stillness and sitting with the years that were before you, the years that are after you, and I think that's what bringing soul into a space does for me personally. is that it's the whole eternal factor of life. Yeah.
Wow, that's deep.
Who knew that about us?
Velinda, where do you see your company in 5 years?
I don't know. Where do you see us? Let's keep working together. Where are we going in 5 years? I think we talk about this as a team of like, okay, what's our dream? Where are we going? We don't talk about growing. We really like staying small. We want to be venturing more into commercial work. We want to keep residential. We love making homes, but we've actually recently started doing more commercial work. So we got to do a boba shop in San Diego. We have done a dentist office virtually. We did offices at the Sony studio, and we have a bar restaurant coming up. So we really, really want to do more of those spaces. I would say the overall desire to do so is based in the experience of a space. So, we really want to do boutique hotels or like boutique restaurants, a place where people go have these memorable moments in their life in a memorable setting. So, one of the things, and I'm sure there's a budget reason for this, but like for myself, I'm like, I want to design a hotel where it's small. You want to come back. You want to stay in different rooms because you're getting a different experience. Because right now it's like the lobby's amazing in hotel, the restaurant's amazing, and then all the rooms feel kind of the same. I really want it to be like a place where people can't wait to go back because there's more to experience.
And so with all that, I'm noticing that you're working a lot with AI, or you're incorporating it in such an impressive fashion. What can you share with our audience that shed some light on how you are incorporating AI?
I mean, I'm terrified of AI as we all are I do think it's going to replace even aspects of my job for sure, but right now we're using it as a tool and in a way to communicate faster. Specifically, I have found it useful when a client who maybe it is one of those clients who doesn't consider themselves creative or doesn't know how to communicate. I've found that sometimes they'll bring me something that they just generated on AI and be like, here's what I'm trying to show you I like. How do we make this happen? And what's cool is, a lot of the process of inspiration has been heavily found on Instagram or Pinterest. And, we have that as a part of our process. We collect inspiration images from our clients. But the few clients who have been like, I just dreamed this up. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Like, you're not just piecing together what's already been done. You used a tool to communicate what you want us to bring to life. And I think that's kind of awesome. Yeah, I do like recording. I like recording meetings. I do like recording calls and then having it summarized so that, nobody on my team is spending the client hours typing up, you know, what we want them to know and quickly know that we've processed. So we use it as that tool. So I think we just approach it as a tool that may become a dangerous tool, but really, really, really helpful right now.
Man, very scary.
But also, it's almost like if you don't use it, then you automatically are becoming extinct. So might as well just use it and make it an extension of who you are. I mean, I can't have a meeting without Otter anymore, right? It's like, who are you listening? Are you watching? Are you screen grabbing? Not just note taking, and those are minutes now. You've got virtual screen grabs of almost all the meetings. So you just go back and do a quick one keyword search, and everything shows up in summary. Every single thing you've talked about, every single meeting.
And saving a
So
lot of time. You're saving a lot of time.
It's saving time, is therefore saving our client's budget. And also it's, I mean, you know this, Pat, the amount of detail that gets discussed throughout this process, you cannot keep it all up here. And so to exactly what you're saying, be able to go back and search and be like, right, did my client say they like window treatments in this room? Not, because we're going through the entire house and you can go find it. So it's so helpful.
Well, it seems like that is all the time that we have for today's podcast. Thank you, Velinda, for joining us. And this is a good time to share how our audience can learn more about Velinda Hellen Design.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you guys. That was really fun. And you can find us on Instagram. We are at Velinda Hellen Design, or you can go to our website, and our website's set up so if you do want to work with us, you can kind of sign up and go through that process. VelindaHellenDesign.com. I have to spell all parts of my name. Velinda, Hellen, 2 L's. And I just like to also just say that we always are happy to navigate. If you have a question about scope or need a complimentary call, we'll connect with you through our site.
This has been so much fun. Thank you, Velinda. It's been a pleasure. And we hope that our listeners enjoyed this episode of Foundations, and we hope that they listen in on our next one.
Thank you, Velinda. You're the best.
Thank you. I'll be talking to you later today.
All
Bye.
right. Bye.
Thank you.